Call to order. Today is Tuesday, October 3rd, 4 p.m. Town Council meeting in Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Jamie, lead us in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Jay, listen to the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilman Bourget,
Here.
Council Vice President Williamson,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
Quorum is declared. Consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the September 19th, 2023 regular town council meeting.
Move approval.
Second. Move the second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinances. First reading of ordinance for tax stabilization development agreement for 1 Noons Lane as requested by FJN Realty LLC.
Move the ordinance.
Second. Move the second. Discussion.
The only discussion I have is, I've said it numerous times, no problem giving tax agreements with the businesses. Struggle more with the residences, but businesses are encouraged.
Any other comments on that?
No, we've had discussions about length of agreements, but I think there is, go ahead. There is precedent for this, though.
There is precedent, but this applicant, Eric, I want to call you out because I know you're part of the application here. But during our budget time, I know Derek came on through Zoom and stated that we need to stop doing things like this. Now we got the application in front of us from that. Am I wrong for saying that? You want to come up and just explain?
Typically, well, I don't know, there's an attorney that represents. Is there an attorney here or?
Who drew this up? That's what
I'm not sure that's germane, but,
no, because I've got a couple of questions on it.
oh, okay.
So to answer your question for me first is, yeah, I came up and I opposed these things at a residential level. Commercial, look, commercial businesses bring revenue to the town at all levels. Commercial, in my opinion, is different, way different than residential. That was my opposition, was residential. I never said commercial. But I brought Brian as a representative of FJN, as a partner, to go over all the tax stuff.
So, Brian Moyo, 132 Rollingwood Drive, North Kingstown, Rhode Island. I am a 50% owner of FGN Realty. I am the sole owner of one of the businesses that's going to be relocating our business from Johnston to West Warwick. I think I've talked to the council, not officially on the record over the years about that. We made a decision in the last, I'd say about 10 to 12 months to make the move and buy a former realty company at the direction of our lawyers, our accountants, for personal tax reasons and kind of making our friendship remain whole and obviously having a business succeed with 2 different entities running their businesses on it. So we formed a realty company, FJN. As far as who prepared the document that you have before you, that's myself, in coordination with both John Reed, who is another member who's not here. He's traveling, and Derek Reed. And we kind of didn't know where to go on how to do this. So we contacted Sal Sakosha, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name properly. And I had a very pleasant conversation with Sal. I said, what's the process? How do we go through this? As you all know, I mean, I do tune into a lot of the meetings, and I have seen many businesses, residential uses, commercial uses. Sal pointed me to a couple of recent ones that were passed in the last maybe 12, 18 months, one being Quality Realty, I believe it's called. They're building up on Keys Way behind Cardi Furniture's there. He talked to me about the Little Roadie one, I think that was done on Pulaski Street, if I'm not mistaken. He also pointed to a couple of the residential ones, the condo ones that came before you on Main Street. And he said generally that the process is that you make a submission through the clerk's office. It's put before the council, has 2 meetings, got to hear it tonight. And then if it's approved, it goes to the second meeting. He said to me that sometimes clients are represented by counsel. We made the decision amongst ourselves, since we are very, very friendly with the owners. I mean, he's a client of mine, I can call him right now, of the quality project that's happening over there, to, look at what's been presented to the town. And then I kind of took a step back and said, all right, let me look at all of the different ordinances that have been presented. And I think if you look at, I looked at about 7 or 8 of them, they're almost word for word verbatim of what you guys see. They basically changed the plat, the lot number, the addresses, the owners, what the businesses are that are doing, and then the values that are put before you. And reading, then what I did is I went to the zoning ordinance and I checked out, what the town ordinance allows us to seek. And basically in your ordinance, it gives sole discretion to you, the council. And there's guidelines of submitting a 6-year request. And Sal pointed that out to me, that there have been some people that have sought 10-year and then it's gone back to 6-year. I think I've heard a few on the residential side, just listening in. People sought 10 and you guys thought it was more prudent to be 5 years. And our thought behind that was that in some of the other submission, requests, they were businesses or developers that were coming in the residential side of the world, sell the condominium or rent the condominium, make it more, palatable to a potential buyer, potential renter or something like that. In our case, we felt it was a little bit different. You have one entity who's been, I'm going to call it a lifelong tenant, resident of the town of West Warwick. And then you have my personal business, Forever Green, that is, relocating our whole operation here. I can tell you that on my side of the equation, we have 10 employees. In the last 2 years, our business has gone for about, $1.2 million in revenue to about $2.6 million in revenue. I'm in it for the long haul. I think that Derek and John are certainly in it for the long haul. I mean, John's a little older than Derek, but he does plan on, continuing Reed's Landscaping for many years to come. By having the businesses there, it allows us to continue to expand our business. I did look at some of the, other businesses that have gotten it, and it seems that, 10 years seemed right for us. We also think that 10 years makes sense because of the unfortunate legal battle that John and Derek had to fight. I mean, we probably should have been here 6 years ago. I mean, they bought the property in 2016, 17, I think it was. We're at 2023. The buildings are finally going up. We're investing a good amount of money. We want to continue to invest money. We've been good stewards. I mean, minus some of the, I'll use your words from the last council meeting that I listened to, maybe some of Derek's lack of professionalism up at the podium here. But I think that we have demonstrated through some of the projects we've done in town that we're in it for the long haul. We're not looking for a quid pro quo yet because we did work over here that you guys should give us this. But I think that, at the end of the day, we need to do what makes sense for our businesses and trying to fix those costs. Derek and John, as you know, they operate their business pretty much across the street from where they are. And I operate my business in Johnston, and you, as any business owner knows, you need to fix your costs. So having a stable tax rate for 10 years allows us to kind of move into it. There's no intention of renting out to other tenants. You're looking at one, you're looking at the other. There's no intention of, some of the other tax, like properties, if you ask me how I got to the numbers, so that maybe one of your next questions. The land valuation that we use is based on the recent assessor's amount. And talking to Sal and trying to figure out how to come up with an assessed value, construction cost and what the property would sell at fair market value doesn't typically factor in what the assessed value is based on the tax rate. So what we did, or what I did, was I looked at the assessor's values for neighboring properties that had similar build outs of what we're having. And of the 3 or 4 that I looked at, the assessed rate per 1,000 square feet ranged anywhere from like $22 to $26 per thousand, $46 per thousand, I'm rounding. And then the neighboring property went for $56.25 per thousand. So the building that I'm going to be using for my business is 2,400 square feet. Building that Derek and John are going to be using is 3,200 square feet, 5,600 times $56.25 comes up with a building value of 315. You take the 315 plus the 75 and change. I don't remember the number exactly. And that's how I developed the table that's on the last sheet to give you the 0 through 10 year breakdown. So I do think that our request is fair, considering that what we plan on doing down there. And we can also state that whether you know it or not, the property that abuts us, that the bus company formerly owned, was purchased by a dear friend of mine, Max Ramos. And he is intending on moving his business down there. If you've been down there recently, you've seen that Max is already starting the process of preparing the site to move his masonry business down there. And Max has a business with right now about 34 employees. He does both union, non-union masonry work. So we're trying to make a good conscious effort, although it benefits us in some way, of having our team together, of enhancing the area. So that entire side of industrial that once was either vacant land or just tall weeds and brush, and is going to be enhanced. And I think if you've seen anything that I landscape or we landscape, our intention is not just to have gravel parking lots around our buildings. We plan on enhancing ours. And I can't speak for Max, but I know him well enough. He has a very nice house, and it's done very, very tastefully. So we just want to be, do what's right for that area. I mean, the ordinance says it's give tax stabilization for blighted properties in commercial, industrial, business, and residential uses. And we think that 10 years is an appropriate request.
And the reason why I'm asking is this was, or because normally when something like this comes before us, usually should be before the project starts. The buildings are already up, right? One's in rough frame, one's completely up. It's the interior, but exterior. So, but we also get a cost analysis from Sal, which I didn't see anything from anybody on this except for what's on the agenda. I honestly saw this on Saturday morning. Read this, read through it. I questioned it because the last person who came here with a few $1 million project on East Main, he's in a business, people say it's real estate or whatever, but it is a business. And, we put him through the ringer and said, come down from 10 years to 5. And we said, but we also said a percentage per whatever you get to at 100% in 5 years. They haven't been back because of that. Right? So, but he hasn't started his project either. And, I'm hearing rumors of other people coming also, and they haven't started their project. You have. So I don't know. And Sal, I'm glad you walked in because I was looking for you. Do you have any cost analysis to what this is? Like I see a $315,000, the value over $315,000 increase in the tax base. To me, $315,000 increase in tax base is less than a house. Because right now houses are going what, 350 to 400. So that's what I'm asking.
I did run it in. I think he was being a little over than a number than I came up with. I came up with a number a little bit lower than what he had,
You
but
remember that number?
it wasn't by much. I think I had it like at 290, 315, but that's just a matter of, maybe I don't have everything, the right material, the building, I kind of vanilla'd the project out. I didn't
Yeah, but
add
over-
for
over
the top of
10
it.
years, what-
Well, if there's nothing there, it doesn't cost the town anything.
So, but the buildings are there right now without even this. What
All
I'm
right, so
saying-
a 315 at the $30 tax rate was at like $10,000 a year.
That's what I'm trying to point out, is normally they come before us, before the project starts, not after or midstream. So
The,
that's why, and I don't have any of the numbers in front of me, and I don't know if anybody else wants numbers, but I'd like to know what, and if you have,
Well, I don't remember us having numbers for quality foods either.
oh, we had numbers, Sal had all those numbers, exactly what the
He
buildings
had it
were.
all
You're
laid
talking
out.
a, how many $1 million project that was?
He's up to like 4 million.
40, 50, right? $1 million
Million.
project.
Million, yeah. No, 4 or 5 million.
Or
Oh,
five.
four or
I was
five.
gonna
Or
say, what
five
are you
million.
saying? Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah.
we could help that. Yeah, but a 4 or
Yeah.
5 million.
The,
dollar.
Year 10
the
is
tangible
3,600,000.
portion that was in here, the state passed a law for the upcoming fiscal year where the tangible rate is frozen for the whole state.
Yeah.
At that point. And then there's a up to a $50,000 exemption against each business, which goes into effect in
And those tangible
24
taxes- Those tangible taxes for Reeds are just gonna transfer from 62
to
Andrews down to,
Unions.
and that's the other thing I'm confused with. I thought that was industrial drive. And you guys, that's all what matter, I don't know nothing.
Yeah, there was something that came through, I think through the inspector's office with the address and the fire department.
So when we tried to get building permits filed, excuse me, the official mailing address, as we are learning, is going to be 1 Nunes Lane, Unit A, Unit B. When
That I found out.
we did too.
I was confused.
So we basically, when I submitted this paperwork, the address of the property, as I looked at the other, or stabilization plans that were prepared, were based on the the future mailing address. Right now, we don't receive mail at 1 Nunes Lane. There's no mailbox there. But it's the intent, once the project is complete, for us to receive it. So that's why we put 1 Nunes Lane. And I'm happy to take the $25,000 off that Al is looking to save us. But I wanted to be, due diligent and not come here. I think you guys know me by now, that when I come before you, I don't come here with bogus stuff. I come here and I can stand behind what I speak and what I say. So I used the highest number that I could find in the neighboring buildings that had a similar build out as we do. I'm not going to tell you who has a much less one, but it's substantially less and it's a similar building, but I'm not one to throw anyone under the bus. And I don't want that rate. We don't want that rate. We want fair market treatment from the town, from the council. And that's why we came with what we came at.
Thank you. Any other questions?
As far as the East Main Street project, I mean, that's residential. Police and fire have more of a chance of going to a residential, a building like a business like these gentlemen run. They go in there in the morning, they pack up all this stuff, they leave for the day. They come back in the evening, they unpack all this stuff and they leave. So the chance of police or fire response is not very high, and they're not putting any children in the school system where residences, if they have a child, they go in the school system. That's why I don't really like the tax breaks for the residential stuff. With businesses, I have no issue with. Because I agree with you, and I've said it numerous times, these places that, they build all these places, they're in business. But unfortunately, we get stuck on the back end with the extra burden on the tax side.
Any other comment?
So Sal, you're comfortable with the building value at 315? And that's for both buildings?
Yes, yes. I don't think it'd be any higher than that. If you want me to do the math over for the, if you know, for the next vote, because if you have to vote on it twice, I can get you.
I'm sorry, Sal,
Okay.
I can't do
I-
two things
I
at
don't-
once.
It's
That's
not
a,
gonna be any
yeah,
higher than 315 for the new building,
For both of them.
for both of them, correct. That's the most that,
Sal,
What size are those buildings?
2,432.
So two buildings on an acre,
They're,
2 acres, what is it, acre, of land? 1 acre of land is only worth 315,000?
No,
what
No,
it's made out
What it's
of.
assessed as. So I'm concerned
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah,
Think about
I
that, Sal.
I sat
As a
down. and-
taxpayer sitting in the
Yeah.
audience, hearing two giant businesses coming in, okay?
It's not that,
Okay, but there's two giant buildings there on 1 acre of land, two businesses.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be assessed at 315,000, maybe 295, as you said.
the building is.
no, it's gonna be 315.
It's gonna be almost 400 with that, with
Okay.
the land
Think
included.
about that.
That's
I'm just asking.
the type of building it is. It's just a simple metal shell,
So if I can build a house out of metal.
right?
and-
3/4 of it is nothing, where it's gonna be a slab, a garage.
Okay, I'm just asking.
So,
I mean, I don't I mean, David, I don't disagree with you,
You
like,
get a
wait,
million, right?
what's that?
You probably can get $1 million after 2 billion.
I plead the fifth. I mean, I think my attorney would guide me to plead the fifth. But I don't disagree with what you're saying,
No.
but just looking at what's out there, that's why I looked at the lowest and the highest, and that's how I came up with the number.
I mean, I'm fine with this.
50 something a
I'm good with
foot,
this,
right?
but
60 bucks a foot.
56, 27
Right,
foot.
I
But
mean-
just so you know, it's a constant.
These apartments go for like 120 or 140. So look at what goes into an apartment per foot as opposed to that building.
Yeah, but
It's half.
I'm just asking the questions because Derek and I have had conversations and he's actually told me what his garage is worth. I'm actually laughing right now because
Well,
I'm like, wow. what a
we're not
story you got.
asking President Trump what it's worth, so it's,
Hey, whatever.
no. It's, yeah, it won't go
So-
more
so-
than
The
350.
bad news is we might look at the system, you're right.
My
You
question-
can't-
I did it.
Not on this.
Hold on, guys, one at a time.
yeah, I have a question. So, I mean, I know you guys probably aren't for the long haul, but the stabilization stays, if they were to decide, let's say in 4 years, you're like, we're done with it, the stabilization ends with these.
No, it transfers.
No, it transfers. Yeah.
But it's not about, it's about, could be anybody's business when we do these deals, because somebody could do it just to flip it. I mean, that would be the only thing, and again, because whether we think you're gonna be there or not, I think when we do these deals, they should be contingent on if it sells, then it should not go on. It shouldn't transfer, not just for you, for any of these projects going forward. And then, not that I think you're going anywhere, but
I think that, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I do have a brother-in-law that is one, and he's kind of giving me things that I should and shouldn't say. I think that if you take that precedent, then it kind of shows that we're not being treated in the same equitable fashion as others. So that language that you see there has been on 9 out of the last 10 tax stabilization agreements that you've proposed.
we didn't have, and the one on Keys Way, we didn't have anything with that one about it not carrying on with another business. It can transfer to that one.
It's
too.
there.
Okay, okay.
He looked back and I compared, he said he compared those.
Okay.
so I was just doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually-
I talked to Bill Cotero, who's the owner of
Yeah.
that business, and I said, Bill, can I use a lot of your stuff? He says, just take it, Brian. I mean, it's boilerplate pretty much. So it's the same thing that's on that document.
I mean,
so Sal, moving forward. I mean, not everything is black and white. We've had many people, businesses come before us for businesses that will stay, that are owner occupied. They're staying here in town. We have condos that have come before us where developers may or may not be on site and live there, but obviously renting more out. And we've had there's different criteria that comes before us. So is there a way to put this all together and maybe have, I call it check boxes, but we have developer unoccupied, condos, business like this coming before us right now? And can we have language in there like Jay was just saying, I think is a really good idea. If people leave after a year or two, whether they leave on their own or not, will that remain with that, will it remain with the property, or can that cease and desist? Do we have the authority to do that?
As a council, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
But that's
each
the problem, and
situation-
that's where I'm getting with,
Right.
it's, everything's different that
Right.
comes before us. It's like we're
Correct.
playing God with each individual business, and I don't feel comfortable with that. You know, I'm more like, all right, it's a checkbox, and we play off that checkbox.
So I'll use Lippert Mill as an example. They change hands, they come back before us. And they're gonna come back before us. And correct me if I'm wrong, how many times have Royal Mills come before us? Three different owners with tax agreements. So those didn't transfer, those two particular ones. Well, I
They
can't
don't- they
talk
don't
about
run
Lippert
with
right
the
now 'cause
land.
it's still in the court system, but if Lippert changes hands, they don't have an agreement.
So we have a current ordinance that lists that says we should have an application, which we never had. I created one, gave it to Sarah. I had a town planner, and I'm going to give one to Bob to look at also. But that just covers what's in the ordinance. The 6 years, right, 0 for the first year, 20, 40, 60, 80, with all of the other information pertaining to it. If anything's different than what's in the ordinance, I have no authority to make any ruling. That's where they all come to you. And it's not even part of the ordinance anymore. It's a separate agreement that the town is making with
Right.
someone. So as far as those goes, unless you want to create something in addition to the current ordinance, which you would have to match. If you say A, B, C, D, they have to have A, B, C, D. They don't have it, you don't even, it doesn't even come before you because they don't qualify.
How long has the current ordinance been in place?
I want to say maybe
What's the
less
ordinance
than
number?
20 years. I gotta look at the last page.
Just curious. So when someone,
2001, so 20 years.
so when someone comes to you to discuss that, do you point them in the direction of that ordinance?
Yes.
You do.
I give them that, and because they're all public record, I give them copies of the other ordinances that have been not passed, because those are ordinances also. The only one that's ever matched this, the one that's on the books, but there's been two. It was the one right next to where he's applying for. Nunes was at 41 or 43 industrial,
Okay.
and 100 Pulaski Street, the Little Rhodey storage.
Yep.
Those were the only two since I've been here that have met exactly what the ordinance said. All the other ones, I mean, you got the apartments, you've got the homes building, the new set of condos on Crawford Street, Keys Way. The Cube Spot wanted to come in, but I think they were discouraged.
Well, that's what I'm saying about again, I'm good with this. Okay, so we're midstream through the project. Now, 1 3/4 buildings up, right? What happens if the council says no? I'm just throwing it out there. Now, you got the JJ Newberry building condos. Right? The project's done. They're pretty much selling their condos.
They got 3
They
sets.
could have come to, now midway through the project, they could have tried to come to us and say, hey, we want tax credits here or something. What I'm saying here, no matter who it is, they should be coming to us before they start the project, because what happens if any council up there says no? They may or may not, like right now, we say no. I don't think that's going to happen, but if we say no, they're sitting there with a 1.5 building up. Wondering,
And an extra,
so,
you know,
you know,
chunk of
Again,
money every year.
I'm just, and they'll probably continue going and finish, but it's not fair to the business owner. I don't care if it's residential, business, or whatever, it's not fair. They should not start the project until they know if they have it, if they're looking for one, because some people aren't looking for one, let's face it, right? But if they're looking for one, they should be coming before the council, before the project. That's all. You know, that's something I think your office, the planner's office, everybody needs to tell them, if they intend on it, they should be doing it before their project starts.
Well, is there anything that prevents us from creating an ordinance that says
So I-
such a thing?
I
You know
think
what
I think what we need to do, if this is actually come to light, that we should look at what we're doing now, perhaps put in that once it's transferred, it's null and void. I mean, those.
Add to the
Exa-
existing.
Exactly right.
amend
So
it
I guess I
somehow.
would charge you and the town manager with coming up and the planner perhaps something to amend that going forward prospectively, not currently.
But
It
you made a,
it wouldn't be right.
you made a good
Fund
point,
transfer
Dave,
and-
is what I was trying to say. Maybe I didn't convey it the right way, but we have this right here before us and the other two you named, Noons Lane and Little Road Storage, who have done business in the town before, who are on site, who live in the town, or may have other businesses in town. And then you have a condo project, which I'm not knocking a condo project, but you have somebody building it and they may or not live in one of those condos or might just sell them, make their money and take off. You know, to me, that's a big difference. The roots,
You
Of a-
look at the condo projects in Ward 5. I wouldn't, knowing that area and how they're gonna sell, I probably wouldn't approve the tax treaty for that, right?
why not?
Well, listen, the reason why is exactly what Mark said, but when you're trying to put them here in Arctic where it's less desirable in the heart of the south, I'd agree to it. So.
See, that's where I disagree, because then we're playing God. Then we're penalizing people.
No,
for
but the
buil-
point
Well,
of
hang
the
on, I'm
state-
talking,
sorry.
we're penalizing people for building an area that may be a little bit more desirable to live in versus one that's not. So to me, that's not, I wouldn't think that's
So
fair
let me
at
put you
all.
on the spot.
Sure.
The development going across the street from your house, would you give them a tax treaty?
I really can't talk about that.
No, but would you give?
I can't talk about that.
um,
Well, I mean, if you're putting me on the spot, I mean, I have Al right here who knows that I can't do an ethics decision. I'm not allowed to, which I disagree with.
I think with the stabilization, the intent of it is to spur business that might not have happened otherwise, right? I mean, especially in a blighted area like West Warwick, the point is to kind of even the playing field
Well,
for.
there's no hidden secret. Industrial Lane was under 10 feet of water in 2010. And that is a blighted area.
No,
And
I'm
any
not-
business that builds down there is a risk at any
Okay.
given day. And
And
so.
I'm not disagreeing with, I'm just, from your comparison between Ward 5 and Ward 3, I was comparing to that, not to this.
Yeah, no, and I don't disagree, like,
Mr. President, if I may,
One off topic.
you have a matter before you that's an ordinance. Now you're starting to go into the generalization of what you may do in the future. I know it has certain points that address what's going on, but
any other comment
You
from
might
the
wanna-
council?
bring it back.
Any public comment on this ordinance? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call.
Thank you, because the only thing on this agenda item is one news lane.
Alan,
It's not. the
Alan, if you want
entire-
to speak, you come to the
I
microphone.
will. Stand by, this. I want to go.
No, there's nothing, why are you so frustrated?
I'm frustrated because the agenda item, as Mr. Williamson pointed out, and we agree on this one, deals with one Noons Lane. It doesn't deal with the entire spectrum of ordinances and tax stabilization agreements for the town of West Warwick and the council, Mr. Goslin. I'll address you later at the end during public comments, but point of order is get back on topic. Thank you.
We are kind of on topic because these items have been brought up because of one news.
No, you brought them up. The issue is one Noons Lane. Stand by at the end. I'll talk in open.
So
Okay,
are we voting?
So,
yeah, I'm taking a roll call vote on the way it's written.
well, there
No
is,
amendments.
actually, there is one, the word quality.
I'm voting yes to approve as is.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes,
And I vote yes.
Thank you very much. And at the next meeting, do we need to present? Is it more of a formal process just because we're learning?
Second reading, and there's nothing really brought up here tonight,
So then
no changes were made.
You
no-
say you don't want to come, Brian?
I would love to come.
I thought so. All
But
right.
I do have to pick up a daughter and a son and another daughter. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
First reading of ordinance 2023-24, amending chapter 11.5 courts, municipal and probate, section 2, appointment term and qualifications of municipal court judge, and section 3, assistant municipal court judge.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Al?
The ordinance makes just a couple of changes to our appointment of our municipal court judge. The present ordinance states that the municipal court judge must be a resident of the town. With what's going on and with John heading back to Florida, it's very difficult to get a municipal court judge from the town. So it just says that it's open up to any attorney. And the council can, if the council wants to stick with somebody from West Warwick, they're free to do so. It's no longer mandatory. The other thing it changes is that it goes from not less than 5 years experience to 3 years experience for the municipal judge and the assistant municipal judge. And it goes from a 5-year term to a 2-year term for the municipal judge, and the assistant municipal judge serves the same tenure as the municipal judge. And the ordinance has always stated that the assistant municipal judge is from the same firm as the municipal judge. Those are the 3 changes made.
Any questions for Al?
So why are we making all these changes down?
Tim had something else.
Just 2 simple things. Section 11.5.3, where it says the appointed municipal court judge is also authorized to select a specific member of his law firm. You might want to change that. And secondly, on the second page, number 7, the candidate is required to have legal malpractice insurance. We want to think about an amount.
But my question is same as
Why are we, it seems like we're lowering the qualifications. I understand it's probably a tough position to fill,
Because
being if you have to live in West Warwick.
because those were the changes that I was told to make.
by who?
Those came from suggestions as we researched other communities on what their standard was and what one of the state standards were as far as do they need certain, you're not getting a judge experience, you just want somebody that practices law for a certain amount of time. So the standard average that we found was 3. And then obviously the residency requirement or elector requirement actually just severely restricted the pool, in our opinion, on what we had. It still very well may be somebody, but we just wanted to expand the pool so we'd have some people actually to interview.
I can tell you that back when there were 20 or 30 attorneys actively practicing in the town. That's not here today.
But that's the only change I agree with, is making it so they don't have to be a qualified elector of the town. Me personally, I think you have a better chance holding somebody if they knew they had a 5-year term than a 2-year term. I think that's gives them more stability rather than every 2 years, or if councils change, am I gonna get reappointed? That 5 years gives them that stretch, and I'd rather see the 5 years stay. And as far as experience, I'd rather have somebody with more experience that's gonna make these judgments rather than somebody with less experience. So the only one I really agree with is the qualified elector of the town, that they don't have to be that. It increases the pool, like you said.
But I also don't, I mean, I'm picturing this, all right, statewide, you could have somebody from Cumberland or somebody from Narragansett coming in after practicing law for 2 years and making decisions about what happens in West Warwick. I'm not for that.
Well, you're not prevented from appointing West Warwick. It just gives you a larger market. If you got somebody,
Right, but
no, I'm just, that's the thinking that that's still.
I think everybody, I mean, just look at the smile on your face. You're thinking, I think exactly what I'm thinking. I mean,
I shared my concerns and I.
You know, I
do
mean-
have- You know, I like the fact that a person from West Warwick, who knows West Warwick, understands West Warwick, works, in the last two judges we have knew West Warwick very well, and they worked very well with people who came in the courtroom. If any of you attended any court sessions here, both judges done phenomenal. They've worked with the police department, they've worked with the residents, and, you know, yes, we all know speeding and going through stop signs is probably one of our biggest complaints. But they also work with children who've gotten tickets, and they work very well with our community. So my concern, you know, like you said, a guy or a girl from Cumberland comes in, doesn't care about the young kid from West Warwick who's gonna kill their parents' insurance, and, you know, instead of having them doing community service, you have to pay the ticket. Right, and put it on their record, and where our judges have always worked with those individuals and in our constituents, so.
And that's why I think, leaving it at 5 years gives them that more experience and maybe that little bit more of a, oh, wait a minute, I'm not, you know, not trying to get the name for myself at this point. So with 3 years, oh, you know, they might be like, oh, it's my chance to.
The only
And the
comment I would-
experience isn't in a judgeship. The
No, no, I
experience
get
is
that.
just practicing
Right,
law,
and
so.
I get that, but as Tim will probably tell you, the more time you stand before a judge and they're reaming you, it's a little humbling.
David, the only comment I'll have,
Oh, maybe I'll
my
stay out
comment
then.
about our judges is that we just, in my opinion, happened to find two incredible guys.
And I would actually echo that. I agree. And they have lived in the community. So to be an elector, you could move in. You can move into Factory Street, you can move into the condo. So living here doesn't mean you're not from Cumberland or from Woonsocket or from
Right.
Narragansett. So you're not necessarily going to get a long-term resident that we have had in the last two
You're not going,
instances.
you're not
but
going
if-
to find another John Bernero.
No,
but if somebody does move in to West Warwick, now they have some sort of an investment in the community. You know, do you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
no,
it's not like we're having
But they
somebody.
don't have the experience. You talked about the experience and knowing the town. They won't have that. They'll learn that as they go along. I just think that to have a choice of one or two is probably not a good enough pool of people to interview.
And that same argument was made when they were making police officers live in the communities, firefighters, teachers, you know.
All employees.
All employees had to live within their communities, and that went away because it just doesn't work. I'd rather see a larger pool where hopefully you get a better candidate, but I would also like to see us stay at 5 years instead of 2 and 3.
Hold on,
Yeah.
not from the crowd, hold on 1 second. please. It's an ordinance, so you can come up to speak on. Yes, please. Any other questions or concerns? 3 to 5. Well, you make a motion to
So,
amend if you want.
so we'll make a motion to amend.
Second.
It's not really to amend, but to leave as is.
That's true.
Because this is the
Amend as
amendment
presented.
change, right?
Yes, yes, that's correct. So you want to leave the appointment for the term at 5 years instead of 2?
Correct.
I can live with that one way or another.
It's still an amendment, so I would move to
I'll make a-
amend,
I'll
because
make-
what's been presented
Amend
before the
this
council
ordinance.
has a different year. So you would be moving to amend to,
Amend ordinance 2023-24.
I second.
And that's for the term,
Correct.
well, the term and the.
Leaving it at
experience.
5 years instead of
I
making
know,
it.
but It's for the term. Is it also for the experience?
That's a discussion that.
that would
yeah.
be a second motion.
Yeah.
So do the first motion regarding,
Motion on the floor and seconded for 2 to 5 years. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And then,
I'm sorry, is the motion going to be 2 to 5 years or 5
No.
years?
no,
From
from
two-
2 to 5.
Two, two,
Yes.
five.
So it's going
Wait a
to
minute.
remain the same.
A
It's
5-year
It's going to
term.
be a 5-year
It's a
term.
5-year
right?
term.
Good point in the wording.
And now the second one would be the issue of experience.
Excuse me. Well, it doesn't, but the associate serves for the same term as the judge, so that
Correct.
takes care of that.
Yes, that's the language, yes.
And the other is the experience. Both of them are for 3 years.
Again, my personal opinion, I'd like to see it stay at 5. I'd rather see somebody with more experience. We're expanding the pool outside of West Warwick. I think we could find somebody with 5 years or more. That'll be a good fit rather than just knocking it down to 3. My opinion.
I'm fine with 3, but I think they should at least, would not like to expand the pool to the entire state. I think it should be, we start off in the Kent County area.
If I may, if you could separate the 3 issues, why don't you stick with the issue of the term, which has already been handled now. Now you're on experience, and then the last part would be domicile.
Location.
Location, sure.
I make a motion to amend ordinance 2023-24. And leave it in the experience, instead of making it 3 years, leaving it at 5 years.
And that is for both associate and judge.
Yes.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
I,
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm fine with leaving it at 3. So I guess I'm opposed.
4 to 1. And the last part would be domicile or residence. Being an elector versus not being an elector.
Yeah, I think it's very tough to keep it down to Kent County. I think it is, because once you put it out there, I think, again, this is probably an HR question. Once you put it out there for advertisement,
Well, and
Can
then
we
you
limit
get-
it to the area or no?
And why would, so is it where their practice is? Is
was
it where
just
they
gonna-
live?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's-
don't think
that's
you
the
want to
problem.
get into that, to
I
be
was
honest
just
with
Either
you.
reside or practice.
I think
That's two
limiting it
separate things.
Yeah.
to the county would be very difficult because, I lived in West Warwick, practiced in Providence. I think limiting it to a county, I think would be difficult to do as to what your qualification would be. You want to make it an elector of the city or town in the county. I think you're just getting into a hornet's nest
All right.
by doing that.
By the
I
way,
can
as
see
Watkins,
it-
the residency requirement has gone by
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that.
the past 30 years.
Sherry?
Also, a state of this size,
Right.
we're smaller than most counties.
We have already posted this position, as is with accordance with the current ordinance that you had to be an elector of the town. So we received 5 applicants. Out of the 5 applicants, there were 2 people that did live in West Warwick. I don't know if the other 3 just didn't catch that you had to live, in West Warwick, or they just figured they would take a shot anyway, or what have you. But even at that, I mean, only 5 applicants for such an important position,
So we have applicants.
we have a few applicants, but again,
Because with me coming into this, reading all this, I'm looking at this, we have nobody has a desire to be the judge in West Warwick. And that's why we're changing this.
I
So-
don't think that's, I personally feel that, like the judge, appointed judge, you need a bigger pool. And the number of attorneys practicing.
That's fine. I didn't even know we had a pool. Did you know
No,
we had a
when I
pool?
say- No, when I
So
say.
Do you know we had any applicants?
I knew we had applicants because one of the applicants keeps emailing saying, how's
So-
the-
Did you know we had applicants?
Jason, when I say a pool, I mean the number of attorneys.
Yep.
Why?
No, I understand. I understand. I'm trying to make a point here. So we have applicants. I didn't know, you didn't know. Did you know?
One contacted me.
Did you know? Okay, so,
So one contacted me and just.
so,
said,
but we have 5 applicants. We have something on the agenda and 3 council people didn't know we had any. I think this is where the problem is.
Well, if they didn't contact me directly, I mean, I wouldn't have.
well, First and foremost.
Oh.
you don't wanna
That's
get
not,
into
that's right.
personnel issues or potential personnel issues before you is an ordinance.
Right.
If you want to argue about whether or not there's applicants or other applicants, that's a different issue. I understand what you're saying.
You know, yeah, I'm making it pretty clear.
Oh, I know, but before you, the issue of the. Or is that on your weekly note?
I thought so, but I'll
Yes,
double
yes,
check.
it was.
You put it
Yes,
on
it
the
was.
So why aren't we in that process?
No, but I just want to clarify, you guys should have seen, it's in his notes saying we have applicants.
I don't
But-
remember seeing the application process
So-
being put out, not that we actually had.
And like she said, we have 2 qualified applicants the way we are now. We just felt like it's like Al said, this is an important position. We'd like to be able to interview more before presenting a recommendation to
It
the
doesn't
council.
hurt
for
us to
appointment.
have the more applicants, and if we still decide we want West Warwick, then we still.
Then
pick
ask
West Warwick.
anybody in the country. Go right ahead. Okay. Do we want? Let's not belabor the point. It's almost 7.
Thank you,
Nice.
Sherry.
So we have the 2 amendments, no third amendment. Any public comment on this ordinance?
Alan Plaza, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick. And with regard to this, I have essentially 2 questions to begin with. Way back when, I looked at how many attorneys there were in the state of Rhode Island when I was focused on legal issues. And I believe it was somewhere in excess of 4,400. Can anybody confirm how many attorneys we have? There you go. Thank you. How many attorneys do we have in the town of West Warwick? You guys don't even know. You're gonna look at, you were looking at an ordinance and you have no clue as to what the statewide pool is or what the townwide pool is. This is symptomatic of the way West Warwick does business, and that's all I want to say. With regard to experience, looking at who gets appointed, traffic court judges, municipal court judges, et cetera, it's usually someone with connections to West Warwick politicians, not so much West Warwick. And I'll leave it at that. I brought up these issues so the taxpayers of this town know the way this town does business. Thank you so much.
Any other comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
I'm not going to vote.
This is with the amendments that we made.
I'm sorry, he said he's not going to vote.
I'm not
So
going to vote.
abstaining.
I'm abstaining from voting.
This is with the amendments, then yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
I'll vote.
That's the experience.
Yes. Thank you, Al.
And the only request
Appointments and resignations. Request from William Patnode for reappointment to the Arctic Redevelopment Commission for term ending October 2028.
Move the appointment of Bill Patnode.
Second.
Move the second, any discussion?
Bill actually lives down in Brookfield Platte. He's always been a friend of ours when we've dealt with him in the sewer, and he's retired now, so you have a lot more time, right, Bill? Okay.
Bill's sitting here.
Yes, he is. Yep.
Bill, raise your hand.
We appreciate it when applicants come out and show their face, so thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
New business, consideration of amendments to the senior tax exemption.
I put this on the agenda. This is something we talked about during budget time. We're past budget time. That's what we agreed upon. So again, my personal opinion is we need to do something for the seniors. We do something for everyone else, in addition to what we do. However, I do understand it all comes down to the one pot of money that we have to work off of. So Sal's here today, and maybe he can shed some light on how the system works currently. And I put this as a council discussion so that all 5 of us on the council will discuss this. So we all know what's in front of us before we make any type of decision out here in public.
So currently, the town has one straightforward tax exemption. It's worth in tax dollars, $262. about 12,000 in value on the residential rate. And there were approximately 1,800 of that. It cost the town close to $500,000 in tax dollars for that exemption.
So
If-
just to
So if you're
clarify.
looking to increase, well, there's two laws involved here. Our current ordinance that's on record here and on the state says 10,000. There's a state law that says that the tax dollar can't be lower than it was the previous year when you have a revaluation. Because the rates change, they drop. So what that doesn't affect is it jacks that $10,000 up by whatever to keep that dollar amount. If you're looking to increase it, my suggestion would be to pick a number higher than what you want to give, but with the ability to not give all of it. So up to $20,000. So next year you want to make it 15, 14 instead of the 12 that it is. You can do that. Maybe make it $40,000. So that way you have a stretch of time over 10 or 20 years where you don't have to worry about having this discussion again, and it's done in-house without having to go to the state. In addition to that exemption, we have a variable income exemption with 5 levels of income. The savings run from $375 for a household that makes $15,000 a year. You go through 5 steps up to $35,000 and they would get $100 off if they qualify. Gross income. Those numbers to me, I mean, it's kind of like slapping someone in the face. You know, how can you run a household on $15,000 a year? I mean, if I had to make a suggestion, I would say maybe raise them all, add a few more categories, maybe add a little bit more money to the relief that you get instead of 100 or 375, make it 5, or that's up to you to decide.
So we can do all that in-house, you said?
Well, no, that would have to go before the state also on the variable exemption.
Okay.
So how many people avail themselves of that?
20.
And at what, oh, okay.
Yeah, it costs us, oh, I'm sorry, 82. There's 82 and it cost us $20,000.
What's the 5th tier?
It go 15,000, 20, 25, 30, 35. So as you go through the tiers, it goes $100, 152.
And that's
Was it
household?
That's in addition to.
Household income. I'm not sure what the poverty level is on income right now, but usually that's like a standard bottom that people work at, and then they go up from there.
So is that just for elderly or is that?
Elderly or totally disabled.
So it sort of mimics Warwick, which I think is a $15,000 and
Yeah, Coventry has something, a lot of towns have something similar to that.
that's a tax, I think that Warwick might be a tax
Correct.
freeze at $15,000. Yeah.
Yeah, but we got rid of the freeze in favor of
And I would.
this
I
about
agree.
20 years ago.
A freeze is a dangerous thing. Yes.
So that's
Okay.
that. You want to increase any of them, now's the time to start thinking about it, get it to your rep, so that way
Yep.
they can bring it up when the sessions open in January. But now is definitely a time to at least start talking about it, and because we have, what, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 meetings left before the end of the year.
Could you put some numbers together based on what you were saying? If you increased the increase from $15,000, just basically get rid of that. And I don't know, I'm thinking, give us numbers, if you start at 25, maybe 30.
I can
I'm
look
just
into
picking
some of the
numbers out of
HUD
the air here,
Yeah, I
so.
can look in some of the HUD figures and I know they have numbers on low to moderate income, what the actual, what that number is.
Now, to do this in-house, can you repeat that? And it's the first thing you said.
Okay, so for the first senior exemption, my suggestion would be to have it changed to up to 50,000 in value. Doesn't
So
mean
it's-
that you have to go that high.
So the value is the thing that's frozen, the value or the dollars are frozen.
No, I'm talking about just the straight senior exemption.
Yep, no, I understand
Um,
that.
Each year, you would get to determine what the value of that exemption is. You can leave it as it is.
But you said it can never be lower. So once you go,
That's the tax itself.
The ta-
right,
the
tax,
dollars,
the
okay.
The tax dollar.
okay,
Our exemption is
Okay.
based on value.
Okay.
If you say a dollar amount in the exemption, then when the rate changes, you don't get that extra relief. You're frozen at that
Right.
tax dollar. So if the rate goes from 18 to 20, you're still only getting $200 off. You don't get the extra money from the increase in the.
The low income students, to the 27,000 for the year, like one person. But it is actually 200% higher than the federal poverty.
so do we have a deferral for elderly? Where if you, when you get to be 65 or 70, the any tax increases are deferred, not completely forgiven, but deferred. So when you sell your property, there's a lien on the property.
I don't believe.
We don't have that
we
available?
have one, But the communities that do have them.
Yep.
Less,
Okay.
less people than we have on our variable exemption
Okay,
take advantage of it. People
Okay.
don't want to burden their ears
okay,
with that amount of money. So I know Warwick has one from Ken Millette, who was the assessor there one time, said nobody.
okay.
Cranston, with their tax freeze, only used to have 400 people a year, give or take. When you're 410.
And how does theirs work?
Theirs was a income level, 1 or 2 people, and was right around the poverty level.
So it's based on income in
Right,
most
but
cases. Yeah.
They're 3 times the size of us.
Oh, I-
They only
okay.
had 400 of those people applying.
Right.
So, the 4 times 8, our variable exemptions were kind of married, it's almost the same amount as that. But yes, I'll put something together. I'll take the current ordinance. They'll use the line out with the word dot to show the changes and stuff, and we'll get it to you the next meeting, 2 meetings.
Yeah, next meeting is fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Sal.
Thanks.
Approval of payment to 2023 West Warwick High School scholarship recipients.
Move approval.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion?
I mean, this was all done before, I believe.
Yeah.
We just didn't know the names and it's in the budget. And I think I saw something where we're gonna streamline the process next year, so it's not September by the time, because these kids have already gone to school.
Yeah, I spoke with Karen Tarasevich, it was May. And they already had their scholarships ready for June, so everything was done.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of the school getting the names to you, I believe, or Kristen, I believe.
Although we're
So-
late, they'll still get a school bill, don't worry.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Further comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Approval of sale of surplus vehicles on Gov Deals.
Move approval of the sale.
Second.
Moving second, Mark?
Per our charter, we're required to get council approval before we surplus sale town items. There are 2 vehicles that Fleet Maintenance is looking to put on govdeals.com, a 2010 Audi 4 and a 2006 Toyota Sienna.
Any questions for Mark?
What is a Toyota Sienna?
It's a minivan.
Van, all right. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Approval of transfer of surplus funds for healthcare costs in fiscal year 2023 from the General Fund 100 to Internal Service Fund 301 and OPEB Fund 303.
Move approval of the transfer.
Second.
Kristen?
Hello. So just kind of catching up from last year, we had a deficit with the retirees. And then this year, not as bad, still a little deficit with the retirees, but the actives had a surplus. So then we also have to do 500 days of run out claims that we'll have to pay. So this should cover us through the run out claims and bring our internal service funds to zero eventually.
What was the deficit?
So for fiscal year 22, the deficit was 888,000. For fiscal year 23, we have a net surplus of 103. So basically for 23, we just broke even, which is pretty good. So I'm really glad we went to the premium based.
Right, we won't have to deal with that other than run out claims.
Exactly.
Right.
And this is the year to do it because we
Yes.
have the funds.
Any questions for Kristen? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Upcoming appointments, Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy as an alternate member for a 3-year term. Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy as a regular member for a 3-year term. West Warwick Housing Authority, appointment or reappointment for 5-year term expiring November 2027. Planning Board, appointment to fill vacancy as an alternate member for term ending July 2027. Tax Assessment Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy for a 3-year term. And the Arctic Redevelopment Commission was filled this evening. Public forum.
Public comment.
Alan Plazo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick. Colonel Mott, I want to thank you for this great podium that we have here. We're starting the 2nd month of school. I just want to point that out. I'm going to raise it over and over again. Okay, at the last, I believe it was the last meeting, I raised the issue of Cohasset Avenue. And Mr. Goslin said he drives that every day. Mr. Goslin, did you drive that today? And it looks like the Mujia Pass after a B-52 raid. Okay, my suggestion, or somebody, I don't know who would handle it because it's a state road, and I'm not sure the project, but somebody in this town releases the workers at the end of the day. It is absolutely abominable right now. I received an email in the middle of a week from one of my neighbors asking, how do you handle potholes? Because he received a blown tire. And I said, that's a state road, and I referred him to RIDOT. However, how long is this project going to go on? How long are we going to subject the residents of this town, one of the most heavily traveled roads in this town, to that total BS in plain English?
So
You can address it later. I
I'm gonna ask
mean,
you right now, because you brought it up last time. I did some
Okay.
work on it. I spoke with Jim Jeremiah, who is obviously involved with the town and with Kent County Water. He will be speaking with his project manager, will be speaking with the crew that is doing, I think it's Brito. I think that's
They
Brito
do a lot of.
that's doing the work,
Yeah.
and he will be addressing the issue. That's all I know. That's all I can tell you is that I'm on.
and that's
That's it.
not
But it is a
acceptable.
state road.
I
So-
understand that, and it's not acceptable for all
No, I
these
know.
taxpayers to suffer damage to
Alan,
their vehicles.
I agree. I live it
And- but the-
every day.
The
I'm
issue
going up
is,
and down
the
that road.
project
No.
manager or someone should actually say, okay, it's satisfactory for the people of this town to travel that road. I see it over and over again. Why do I need a sticker on my car to pay for it to travel on a road, and the roads don't even?
To answer your next,
Just hold on a second, just to help you with your neighbor, I don't know who it is, streamline. The state's gonna tell them to go see Kent County Water because it's their project, so you wanna probably tell your neighbor to go see Kent County Water.
But that's
No,
this.
I'm just telling you to help you.
No, I will do that, but again, it's another burden on the taxpayers of this town.
None of us are disagreeing, John, that's amazing.
I mean, that's bullshit, pardon
So-
my French.
Yeah.
the project, the road is not going to be finally paved until next, either spring or early summer. So. just-
So one of the most heavily traveled roads in the state is going to be like that.
All I'm
the-
telling you what was told to me.
Gene
So,
Valesani
you want
has
an
the
answer?
Director of DOT on every Thursday morning. Call him, explain to him.
No,
the
no,
only way
I-
things
no,
get done
I
in
don't
this-
like
in this
Mr.
state.
Alviti. According to me, he should have been fired for,
Okay, you might not like him, but he gets
610
things done when you
connection.
talk with Paul James.
So you
Okay.
asked the question, I'm giving you an answer.
all right.
Beyond our town control.
Okay, we spent a lot of time earlier this evening on the real estate tax stabilization. Okay, From my perspective, Mr. Goslin, that was focused on one firm. I have a question with regard to that. I've been told, and I haven't researched myself, at the end of Arctic, a lot of condos went up, and I've been told supposedly they had commercial enterprises on the lower forms. People, pick up stuff on Facebook. I haven't researched it, but the question is, if someone does not comply with a tax stabilization agreement, what mechanisms are in place to enforce that, to get the money back? I mean, we say, okay, you have this if you check these blocks. If they don't check the blocks, who comes back at them and say, hey, the taxpayers deserve this? That's a question for a later time, but it's something you need to research. Okay, Lippert Mill, you all know Lippert Mill's in receivership. Citizens Bank is going after them. Hopefully you saw that.
Say that again. Oh, look, no, okay, got it.
Lippert Mill is in receivership. Hopefully you're all aware of that. And I don't know what happened to the tax stabilization agreements or whatever they received in the interim, but in our agreements, do we have something saying, hey, this is what we're giving you. However, if you don't comply, we want our money back. The taxpayers deserve their money back. Do we do anything like that in this town? Another example of forward thinking. Okay. Municipal court judge. A lot of you brought up the issue of residency, et cetera. And Colonel Knott, I'm going to pick on you now because you said we decided. Who is we?
Me and my staff decided to bring something before the council for discussion and their guidance.
All of them?
They're all here.
That's now. How about prior to? We have 3 who said they didn't know we had a pool.
I don't report.
You don't
I don't
report to the council?
That's not what that's not what I said.
You were about to
They
say
get-
that.
They get weekly reports, and I believe the process was explained and why what our thinking was. But
You don't have to answer it when I ask you the question. Do you understand that?
I'm not saying you did it, didn't put it in the report. It may have been in the report and I just didn't see it. Or I do read the reports. But I'm focused on that we have applicants and I'm coming in here tonight looking at the fact that I'm thinking there's nobody who wants this job.
If I may, there's no agenda item. Mr. Palazzo posed a question that was answered by the manager. You now can't get back into your issues pertaining to possible of existing applicants. You can put it on the agenda to speak about it in 2 weeks, but it's just not on tonight's agenda.
Fine, do it in 2 weeks. And the last item I have is with regard to the senior tax abatements, if you will. I talked to an elderly woman in Natick today at CVS, and I asked her if she lived in West Warwick. She said, I used to. I had to sell my home. She could not afford to live in West Warwick anymore. I didn't get her name. She lived off New London Avenue. But she said she had it because she couldn't put up with it. With regard to the tax breaks, I guess about a year ago, I stood before this council and asked about a Veterans Affairs officer. Mr. Goslin trotted out one of his minions that said, hey, we've got this committee, this group that speaks on behalf of veterans. Excuse me, I consider, in my opinion, he's one of your minions because I haven't seen him back at any one of these meetings. Okay, thank you. With regard to the tax freeze, I know, Scott left. He raised the issue of 100% disability. I'm raising the issue of some type of exemption for 100% disabled veterans, okay? I don't fall into that category. I know there are people in this town that do. Some of them are younger than 65, but if the United States Department of Veterans Affairs considers them 100% disabled, perhaps the town of West Warwick should do the same thing. And I know the legislation was out there for a Veterans Affairs officer. Maybe we need to bring it up and put it on the the agenda again at some point, and maybe you can get your general here to explain what he's doing for the veterans here, because I know there is a resident of the town who is very heavy into Veterans Affairs, and I try and put out public affairs, public service announcements regarding all the people, but for veterans. But somebody needs to do it. We had a qualified applicant in Deb Schusterman, but I don't know, maybe she's a loose cannon that you, in your opinion. In my opinion, she's just what we need, speaking up for our veterans, but we need somebody for our veterans, okay? And I'm gonna leave it at that. Have a good night.
Any other public comment? Bert, you can yell from the seat. Bert, again, it's amazing.
Can we see the picture?
It's gonna walk out with you.
Wanna grab that picture? You got the shoe on.
Yeah, they're great.
Oh, yeah. I think we're better off the armors.
Goes with the carpet better.
It's gonna affect-
You really went all out, Miss Smith.
Two pictures.
Can't fit between the arms.
No, nobody said anything there. You gave that away. Yeah, you gave that away. That's on you.
All right, thank you, Bert. That's very generous of you. Thank you, Bert. Any other public comment?
Dennis Quintel, West Warwick, Progress Avenue. I'm one of the disabled vets that Mr. Plaza was talking about, and I live on a fixed income. And I'm just wondering when you guys are gonna stop pulling your hands out of our pockets. Because since I've bought my house almost 8 years ago, my taxes have doubled. The sewer bill keeps on going up. I'm just barely flushing my toilets because I don't want the water to go down there. I'm just barely using the water coming out my faucet. Yeah, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I can afford my house on $35,000 a year. And I can pay all my bills. You guys keep on going up with this. I'm not gonna be able to afford my house. As a disabled vet in West Warwick, I'm not gonna be able to afford my house because of everything going on. All this Green New Deal BS, let me tell you, my electric bill's never been higher. All these solar panels, what's gonna happen in about 5-10 years when they start breaking down? Who's gonna be paying for that? We're gonna be paying for that again. It's ridiculous. Gino Raimondo came in, gave us all these Green New Deals, and all of a sudden took off into the government. Now we're all stuck with this stuff, and we're paying out the nose. And I love West Warwick. It's a great place. I walk it 3 times a week, and I love the people. But there's only so much that we can take as being citizens. There's only so much you can take from us before we can't take no more. We have this housing crisis. You keep on adding to the taxes and the sewer bills. Who's going to be paying on that? Not the people owning the apartment buildings. It's going to be the people that are trying to rent the apartment building that have to pay it. And you can't pay it on $30,000 a year with what they're asking. Some of these places are more than my mortgage. It's like, where are we going to go?
I can tell you honestly, I think every person up here is a taxpayer, and we make decisions, we consider it all.
No, I'm sure you do. But it's like, you really don't understand. You guys are making anywhere between $30,000 to $70,000 a year on a taxpayer. All of you sitting up here.
What?
According to,
We make $5,000 a year.
according to, whatchamacallit, it says you guys make anywhere from 30 to
According to,
$70,000.
That's
according to who?
Who?
It's
I Googled it right before I came in. So I
Don't
can-
You
believe
Googled the wrong-
everything
you Googled
that's
the
on
wrong
Google.
place.
I can tell you now.
The Google is wrong.
After taxes, $75 a week.
Well, I'm just, regardless of that
Sir, I
too.
want to correct that because you're saying $30,000 to $70,000 a year. Wow. Right?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Something happened,
I
yeah.
can tell you now, it's $5,000 a year, and I can guarantee everybody up here probably donates that $5,000, if not. more.
If so, I respect all of you for doing that.
Okay, so just to let you know,
But
it's 5,000.
from
Fine.
Let me correct that. The
Like-
president makes 6,000.
Like a quarter an hour.
the president of West Warwick, not the president of the United States. But if you do, I respect that. But from everything that I was reading, you guys, that's what it says.
That's
So-
incorrect.
So,
That,
yeah. But other than that, it's like, where are our tax-paying dollars going? It's like the place is just falling apart from around us. We can't sustain ourselves when we keep on relying on the government that's screwing us more and more. And this is coming from a vet that I give blood for my country. So I love my country. don't know where this is going. Yeah, I see nothing good coming from the government overtaxing the populace to try to fill their pockets. And it's going on a regular basis. I was watching Congress today on House resolutions.
I want to correct you there too. I don't think there's one person up here filling their pockets.
I was just watching House resolutions today, and let me tell you, for what they make as well, they sit around and do absolutely nothing all day long and wonder why we're falling apart. So I'm blaming the government straight up. The government, any government officials that are like sitting in a position like that. The United States was built on a country that wanted people who made something as an American to later on give something back to America by running for Congress, by running for the Senate, for the people of America. And that's not happening. Yeah. It's ridiculous. But I mean, I have some contentions with Kennedy too, so.
That's fine. All right.
But
Thank
that's
you.
all, it's
Thank
like,
you.
thank you very much.
One more item, Mr. Goslin. I thank Jeff and the DPW for fixing the front of the town hall where it was actually collapsing. However, today, walking in, I noticed the wall between that section and the fire department is falling down again. And on top, it's time to call in, the correct term was Operation Ranch Hand. When the US used to drop Agent Orange over Vietnam, you have all kinds of weeds growing up right in front of the town hall. Come on, people.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Yep.
All right, this is based on the conversation that was had tonight. On 9/15, the town manager sent us, which he does send us weekly updates on mostly every department to keep us informed. So I don't want to think that that is not going on. It says, and I'm going to read it word for word, working with Sherry and Sarah on filling the municipal court judge position. And that was sent on 9/15/23. So if there was one past that, and I haven't seen it, I apologize. But again, I said this for 7 years on the council. I just want to be informed so I don't look like a fool. And that's it.
Ross Adrian, 37 Brayton Street, West Warwick, former town assistant engineer. First off, on the comment I tried to make before with regards to the judge. It seems to make sense to open it up to the state, but give preference to people that live in West Warwick, with all other things being equal. As far as the construction that's going on for the water department, I have to say, seeing Brito's construction about 15 years ago, they've vastly improved. They've gotten a pogo compactor, they've gotten a remote sheep's foot compactor. So the trenches are all being fully compacted. Now, as far as laying of the asphalt, there seem to be two crews. One crew has a roller that does a really good job, and the other crew uses a handheld push vibrator, which leaves the road, you know. I sent some information to you, Dave, and that's basically with regards to the state roads, i.e. Main, Pike, and East Main. I don't know if we're responsible or the water department's responsible for paving them, or whether the state's going to do it.
So we have a couple of projects. So that it's going to be repaved early spring, summer next year.
Okay.
2024, unfortunately, because they have to wait for settlement and everything else. And we also have a drainage project for Brayton Street that has to go across.
Right. Oh, well, did that walk with you, and without getting into details of it, it looks like a workable plan. As far as the repavement of Pavement Street or Brayton Street, it's a tertiary road, so it's not of as much importance as the state roads. The state roads are supposed to be designed for heavy truck traffic. Okay, and if you know anything about engineering, basically the top 8 inches of base has to be designed. The asphalt, you pick the bitumen and you also pick the mix that goes, the aggregate that goes into it. These two things combined will result in a pavement that survives. If you have an under gravel that doesn't have the sufficient resilient modulus, but you end up with alligator cracking and potholes. If you have asphalt that has the wrong temperature design, you'll either end up with transverse cracking or you'll end up with rutting. So these have to be designed by an engineer who has some of that experience. I'm sorry to say, Mr. Jeremiah, who has amazing ability with wastewater treatment. I mean, if you go through the course of the summer, you smell the treatment plants at Warwick or Cranston, you've noticed the odor. We never get that from the West Warwick treatment plant that treats not only West Warwick, but parts of Warwick and parts of Coventry, you know, and to accomplish that feat is a feat of engineering and of management. But I was here when they were doing the, Brito was doing the replacement of the sewers. And basically they were doing Boston blue clay dams with plastic pipe. If any of you want to know why that's bad, I can talk to you later. The other thing they were doing is they weren't compacting their excavations properly. I'm glad to say they have solved that problem with the equipment and experienced people. Lastly, I want to talk about that senior break. Now, I've talked with Dave about it before, and basically, I believe he feels that everybody, you know, regardless of age, should pay the same freight as far as property taxes. However, when you think of someone my age, 70, or a gentleman back there who's 80, or other people in this town, we've been paying since we were like about 17 for education. Whether we're renting an apartment and paying the landlord to pay property taxes, or owning our own house and paying property taxes. So we paid for school, and let's face it, 60% of the budget in the town goes to school. We've been paying for kids to get their education for 50 to 60 years. Come on, give us a break. I mean, if we have a $4,000 a year tax, okay, the current break is like $200. Really? 0.5%? You know, that's ludicrous. Maybe give the seniors a 30% break, you know, on just, let's say, the school end of the taxes, okay? So they're still paying taxes for the school, but just not that hefty amount, okay? Because most of us, if we're not on disability, disability changes to SSI once you get to be 65, okay? And you mentioned the poverty level is $27,000. Well, the SSI income is half that. Now my wife is disabled, so my wife and I, she's a green card Dominican, so we're trying to survive on my one SSI income, and to pay the property taxes, the mortgage, and the car taxes. I mean, and insurance. You know, the insurance is even $200. Well, right. If your car is like 10 years old. or
No,
something.
there's not.
No more
No.
car tax? Okay, fine. But we still pay about $200 a month for insurance, okay? We pay maybe $300 to $400 in property taxes and another $400 to $500 in mortgage. This is the situation I'm sure that veteran is in, okay? We just don't get the money. I mean, try to survive on $200 or $300. You know, it buys 1 week of groceries. heaven help you if you actually have to buy drugs or something, you know? And by the time you're about 70 years old, you think you eat more drugs than you do food. Any case, that's about all I can remember at this point. So please give these things a little bit of your consideration. Oh, I wanted to say one thing. When I was the assistant engineer for this town, there was a councilman, Mr. Padula.
Not go down that road, Russ.
Well, I'm not gonna, I'm not, hey,
I'm not gonna speak about a former council.
I'm not gonna talk about him. I'm going to only say that he asked me what my hours were. And I was a little bit taken aback, okay, because my hours were actually 8:30 to 4:30. However, I had to supervise construction that was done in the town. Now, most construction people get there. I have to talk to the, manager or the owner. They get there at 6:30 and start their work at 7. Okay, so I had to be in the town on the job at 6:30 in the morning. I was on the job all day, and then finally, when the construction people went home, I got to do the paperwork. That would take me till about 5 or 5:30. Okay, so just in the first 3 months of the last year I worked, I put in an extra 200 hours of unpaid overtime. I just wanted that down for the record because I didn't want you thinking, like I was goofing off or something. I was actually giving this town my all. Thank you.
Bert?
I'll vote for that. Yeah.
Bert, you said you weren't gonna ask for anything.
Unless they buy, yeah, and if they bought chairs for the town hall there.
Can you give Sarah a? $92 exemption. Any other public comment?
Eric Reed, 6200. First of all, thank you for the approval tonight. Any update on what we're gonna do when the fence comes down the gazebo? I heard there was a contentious meeting the other night about this. And I'm just curious what the plan is going forward. I see the guys are cleaning, Hat Toys are starting mowing again. But when that fence comes down, what's the plan? Is there one? Yeah,
I can tell you, I don't know what meeting you talked about, but
I heard the ABA got a little contentious.
I wasn't there.
I almost went, but I didn't go.
Again, Mark, Jeff, chiefs, all had conversations since the meetings, so.
And then-
Update as time goes on.
I'm watching Providence and Smiley's got a good sized set. I'm gonna give him that. He's pushing these homeless people out of these camps. I'm concerned of what our town's gonna look like when the leaves fall off. Okay, down at our property, they are now moved on my side of the river. Okay. They're up behind the new little roadie storage over here in the woods.
Swamp and vets.
Okay, you can't see them right now because they're camouflaged with leaves. They're behind River Point, a lot of them in River Point. What's gonna happen to this town when the leaves fall off the trees?
That's why I said, if we close it, they're gonna go elsewhere. and we
Well,
have
that's
other
fine, go
problems.
somewhere else. I've already said that.
They were there.
Right, there was some there.
But
And the other side of this is, at the end of my street, it's raining the other day, and there's needles washing down the gutter and getting caught up on the drains. This is a city sidewalk you're walking down, little kids going to school. We got needles in the gutters. I mean, that's pretty sad. So I'm very concerned going forward. I won't even let my kid walk home from school. He keeps asking me, I'm like, no. we're not doing it, because my kid at 13, he's like me, not even 13, he's 12. Is very, starting to get curious on things. Pick it up, play with it. God knows what happens after that. You gotta worry about that with all these kids, and you see them in a lot of the city streets, in the gutters. People just do their thing, throw them out the window. I just hope this council is ready to do something instead of keep inviting them here and making it a safe haven. There's also a safe haven for some other stuff in this town that I'm not gonna say on the record. Okay? This town, as far as homeless goes and other things, is in trouble. And when those leaves fall off, it's gonna look even worse. And now, like I told you, I got them behind my lot. So I'm gonna be moving all my vehicles down there, all my equipment down there. Like my father says, when they fall in a cage, they might not come back out because it's fenced in. We need to really start thinking about this, because at the level that the people are at, users, or even homeless, there's a line of desperation, and I'm not willing to lose anything for desperation. So that's my concern as far as gazebo goes. I don't know how you plan on protecting it. I got a few ideas, but that's pretty much all I want to know.
Bert? And that was brought up, no, we talked about weddings that happened. I know you weren't here for that meeting, but we talked about weddings and you name it, it's happened there, and that's what we need to bring back. And that's what we're aiming for. We agree.
I think we'll have either an agenda item or a meeting or something before it
We'll get
opens
an
up.
update as it
We'll,
gets closer.
we'll have some updates, especially before it reopens.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Just
I
state your
was,
name and address, please.
my name is Melissa Ferrara. I live at 73 Maple. I was here at the last meeting requesting stop signs on Brookside Ave. I called the town. No one has any answers. I've emailed Mark Knott, Jason Messier. I actually brought
Yeah.
extra copies with me
Yeah,
today.
Mark, it was gonna be on, I believe, the September traffic, or if it hasn't, can you find out if it was gonna,
It was
it was gonna
supposed
be
to
on
be
a
for
traffic, it was gonna
today.
be on a traffic committee meeting.
Today.
They're supposed to be for today.
It happened today.
No, I think it's the 10th. It's
Yeah,
the 10th.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I just saw an email on it myself, because I had to add something else. to that
Okay.
agenda.
Well,
So
the
it's on the
front
10th.
office knows nothing about it. So
Yeah,
when
it's
I
because
call,
the
it's,
the traffic,
yeah.
the traffic committee meetings aren't. We, as a council, we don't even attend the traffic committee meetings, but they'll come back to us with their recommendation, and then, from that point, we can either decide to go in the direction they do, or occasionally we'll go the other direction.
Unfortunately, somebody is going to either wind up getting hospitalized or killed on Brookside.
You're on Maple, how's your new road?
I'm sorry?
You're on Maple Avenue?
Yeah,
How's your new road?
very bumpy, very, very bumpy.
Bumpy.
Yeah, there's.
It's not done yet.
No, not even close,
Finished.
but hopefully soon.
Done today. Hopefully Thursday, Friday.
Thank you. I believe you have my number, right? Or you can get it, just shoot me a text and I'll give you the update of how it makes out next week. Thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jason, you had just mentioned before they opened the park that there's going to have meetings.
I said I would like to. That would
Oh,
be my
you'd like
pref-
to-
I would like to have that, yes.
Perfect.
That'd be
I'd
my
like to
preference.
add to that, if I may. Derek pointed out the problem. I pointed out the problem. Everybody knows the problem. It's a horrible problem, and it's not relegated to just here in West Warwick at the gazebo. It's all over town. It's all over the state. It's all over the country. I
don't have a whole ton of sympathy for the issue with the drug addicts and the alcohol addiction that has caused a lot of this problem. I do have problem with the people that are down and out because of taxes, income, the cost of living, go to the grocery store, it's horrible. I think it's time, we did have a space at one point. It was called the Howard Complex that took in a lot of these people that were challenged in different ways, drugs, alcohol, mental issues. And we had housing for them. There's still a lot of those buildings there that are empty, dilapidated. Maybe they could get refurbished. Maybe it's time to bring some of our state representatives in and pool some ideas together, because each and every one of us can point out all the problems. Now it's time to get together and come up with a solution for these folks. They need a safe place to rest their head at night. If they want to be part of the society, the drug addiction that we have seen down at the gazebo. I hate pointing fingers at any individual, but it's heartbreaking to see it. And people, that's the lifestyle they want. It's the moms or the dads that have their kids that are living in a car or a tent down the street or under the bridge on Pulaski Street. That breaks my heart to see that. We need to help these people. We have to come up with a solution that doesn't infringe on your property or your town. It's our town, it's our properties, and these things can't continue to infringe. We need to come up with a solution. And I think maybe an invitation to some of our state reps and senators to come in and brainstorm. We do this for the money, the budget season. We come in and we have these workshops and things. It's really time we grab the bull by the horns and come up with solutions. Bring the town back to the people, the taxpayers, and have a safe place for these people, not under a bridge. Thank you.
Ross Adrian, 37 Braden Street. I just wanted to make the point that, yes, there are some of the homeless people that may be alcoholics or on drugs, but there's a large number of people, including families and children, that are homeless because of a situation or an ill turn of luck. They're not bad people, they're just homeless. Okay, and maybe there is some federal money or state money that can enable us to house these people. Okay, because any one of us with a turn of fate could end up in that situation. The other thing is, these guys only make about $500 a month from the town. And especially when it comes budget time, these guys are earning the money. And that's about it. Thank you.
I know, probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. There was an idea to put a place in West Warwick to put some of these people, but people didn't want it in a certain area. So I'm not saying that necessarily was the spot, but that happens wherever we want to put them. Again, I'm not saying that was or wasn't, but
I'm gonna speak my piece on this because if you look at concerned citizens of West Warwick page, you have people that are actually pushing all of these homeless people, all the druggies coming into this community so they can push their medical federal money coming in. And it's never gonna stop because they just kept pushing them out of Providence. You don't see them in front of McGee's place anymore, but now they're all coming out here. I wonder why. Because they're trying to push things to Thunder Mist. Is it true that 60% of Main Street's Thunder Mist? It's a question. That's just a question. Because I see, yeah, Thunder Mist buildings all over the place. But as in, they're buying Rite Aid, or they bought Rite Aid. The dental office, they have.
So 4 out of, what is it, 100 buildings? That's about 4%.
Still at that. They're trying to take over the community. Washington Street was just another place. But so the more buildings, it was still a subsidiary with Thunder Mist, the federal government.
It was trying.
Huh?
Thrive
which
Behavioral.
is another subsidiary of Thunder.
They're not, they're,
But regardless of that, we have people actually threatening on concerned citizens of West Warwick that they're pushing, that they're going to push more people in because we made that, no, not in this place statement. They've said it, then all of a sudden, as soon as they say it, they delete their comments. I have photocopy comments that they've been putting out there. But none of you all seem to pay attention to that. It's just another.
I'll be honest with you, sir. I'm giving up on social media.
Yeah, as have I, but I mean, it's like, this is my community, so I'm trying to pay attention to my community. So it's ergo concerned citizens of West Warwick.
I'll put some information out there when I have to, but I'm not gonna go read everybody's comment about a certain.
I'm
thing.
just
It's
saying,
not-
it's, people are putting that out there that
On
they're
both sides.
pushing it,
There are a
pushing
lot
it
of
in the air.
hateful people out there on both sides.
Granted, but I'm putting in my 2 cents.
Thank you. That's it for public comment. Anybody online?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
And that was quick.
Opposed?